Yeah, it's getting pretty crazy with all these autopilots these days. Chirag and I do so many group calls, and it seems like there's as many autopilots on the calls as there are people.
I get rid of them every time if I'm doing an event, I don't let any of them in.
Yep, got it. Well, and I wonder how much people, how many people and how consistently they actually go back and review what's there.
Well, the thing is, you're recording this.
Yep.
So if somebody really wants to go back, they go
Yep.
back to the platform. All the
Correct.
other stuff that there's this one, we have a little meeting at 4 o'clock every day, and there's this one person who I have never seen them at the meeting ever, but their autopilot thing pops up every time
Yep.
we deny entry. It's like you're coming to the meeting or you're not.
Yep. Sure. I got it. Well, welcome, Danielle. Welcome, Julia. Nice to see you. All right, we're here to talk about living the first success principle. If you were here last week, you heard me say that we're going to be spending the next 20 conversations going through the 10 success principles, first introducing the principle, and then secondly, thinking about exploring how to live that principle in a way that it can become something that drives success in your business. And so in a sense, it's a slightly different kind of a conversation. And, these how to live these principles obviously is a little bit more maybe tangible or tactical than exploring the meaning of the principle itself and its role in being successful, helping your business succeed. So we're going to be looking today at this first principle that we introduced last time. That is, people will not be influenced by you unless and until they feel connected to by you or related to by you. We all know relationship is at the core of salesmanship, right? Sales is relationship. Same with leadership. That's why it fits into these category of leadership calls that I'm doing. In
Uh-oh. He's frozen.
Is it just me or is he frozen?
No, he's frozen.
He's frozen and I can't.
in leading yourself and now. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
All right, sorry there. Hopefully that's it. As we know, salesmanship is relationship, right? So is leadership. And that's why we talk about these things here. Now, leadership and salesmanship will always be intertwined inextricably with relationship. And nothing will be more important to the success of your business over the long term than relating. How you relate, or more importantly, how people feel related to by you. A lot of us spend time looking at how we relate to people through the lens of our experience of it. What can I say about Compass? What can I say about my experience? What can I say about the market today and updated information about the marketplace? That's all well and good. But the success of the relationship comes when the other person feels the relationship in a particular way that they value. And if they value the relationship continues. If they don't value the relationship, it doesn't. And of course, this starts at the very beginning with a pitch. If they value you, what you're saying, and how you deliver it, or how they experience what it is you're delivering to them, then you have an opportunity to get the sale. If for some reason they can't connect to what you're saying or how you're delivering what you're delivering, you won't get the sale, obviously. And same thing happens with referrals. I mean, one of the key challenges that we see in so many agents across the country is, what do I do with my clients after the deal is done? And what I hear over and over and over again from agents is, I could do a better job of staying connected to my clients after the sale is done. And of course, at the same time, people are saying, well, I wish I had more referrals. Well, imagine if a deal that you did, let's say you sold a house to somebody, and that house you sold happened to be the house next door to you. And over the next 5 years, let's say that those people who moved in became great friends of yours. The kids play together every day. They're good friends. They're coming over to your house for pizza on Fridays, and you're going over to their house for whatever on the next Saturdays. Doing all this stuff together on a daily basis, having coffee when you have a moment to sit down with each other. You could not imagine that person not referring you later on when somebody asks, who's a great agent for me to work with? But of course, we don't have that kind of a close relationship with so many people after the deal is over. That great relationship that we built during the transaction, during the deal, somehow disappears. And it can be such a shock sometimes when we find out a year or 2 years later that somebody that we served well and had a great relationship with, and they clearly had a great relationship with us, chose to refer somebody else as the agent a year or two later to somebody else they know. And there's nothing here that replaces the value of relationship, right? If they feel in relationship with you, they will be influenced by you. Once they no longer feel that, or if they never feel that to start with, you won't be able to influence them. So let's talk a little bit about this. Pull up a couple of slides as always. We'll go through some stuff. Before I pull up any slides, let me just ask you, what is evidence to you that someone feels related to by you? Put that into the chat, please. How do you know that someone is feeling related to by you? How do you know you have that status in their mind? I'm in a relationship with this agent and I value this person in my life. How do you know that's happening? If they say, you get me, yeah, that's an affirmation of something. That's correct. They're saying that I understand that you understand me. If they reach out organically, it's another good one for sure, right? There's no reason to reach out to them, but they choose to reach out to you. That means you're front of mind for them. That means that when they think of connecting with someone, and they could connect with anyone on the planet at any moment in time, they choose you. Those are two good items. We'll talk about a couple more as we go through the slides here. They reach out for answers to their questions, absolutely. When they reach out to you about other real estate related questions, sure, these are all good ones. They refer others, absolutely. These are all evidence that you are in relationship with them from their point of view. And of course, that's the only point of view that matters. If these things aren't always happening for you, it may be evidence that they're not feeling related to by you at that particular moment in time. Maybe it's the beginning of the sale and you haven't won the sale yet. Maybe it's in the middle of the transaction and they're working with you and it's a transaction that you're completing together, but they don't really feel like you get them. Or maybe it's after the deal is over, a month later, 6 months later, a year later, and they no longer feel that connection that they may have felt at one point in time. So let's pull up a couple of slides and explore this a little bit further. Living this first success principle. Well, we talked last time about influence. We said, what is influence? Just as a simple kind of working definition for our conversations today. Here's one way to think about what influence is. The ability to move someone's mind or affect their behavior. The behavior that you want to affect with someone is simply for them to say, I want you, right? It's the whole point. I want you. I want you. I want to start this relationship. I choose you to be my agent. And then every day after that, I continue to choose you. I value you. I want more of what I'm getting from you. They can always, of course, cancel the relationship anytime. And sometimes they choose to. People will not be influenced by you unless or until they feel related to by you. That's the principle. Or if you turn it around and say it the other way, people will be influenced by you only after they feel truly related to by you. This is what actually happens in the sale. Their mind shifts from, here's a stranger, to here's somebody who gets something about me. Here's someone that I feel related to by. Now, they may not say it. They might not say it in those particular words, but when they say, I want you, they want something that they're getting from you. We can assume they're acting in their own self-interest, and that's why, they value something that they believe they're getting from you. And so if it's true that salesmanship and leadership is all about relationship, and people will be influenced by you only when they feel truly related to by you, then the name of the game is relating to, right? The name of the game is creating an experience for them of being related to by you. That's it. That's the core of everything. So how do we create a relationship with them where they feel related to by you? And how do we maintain that over time? Of course, it's hard to do. One way to think about it is simply providing connection to who they are and what they value, providing contribution to them at that moment in time in some way that they value, leads to, in their mind, what we call relationship certainty. Relationship certainty means a decision in their mind, which is usually subconscious or unconscious, that they are in a relationship with you, that they see you as a human being, they value what you're offering. And that's what creates the influence. If they're not sure whether they get you, or they're not sure whether you get them, are they likely to say, I want you? Probably not, especially for a big transaction like this. Once they get to that point where they say in their mind, this person gets me, that's probably likely where they say yes. And as long as they continue to feel that way and the relationship grows over time and they continue to get that contribution from you over time, of course, they're in it with you, maybe even for life. That's where the influence comes from. So how do you live the principle? Well, there's many, many ways, but there's a few things here that I want to highlight. And I want to just kind of like have you note any one of these that you think is something that you want to focus on a little bit more, or maybe something you don't think about that much in the way that you do things. And I will suggest at the end of the call that as a kind of an upcoming step that you take as we leave the call, that you choose one of these things or commit to some other practice that promotes this experience in the other of being related to. First is you have to get to know your client and partner. That's it. To understand what the world looks like from someone else's point of view is the starting point for this. And when you get to know somebody for the first time, you have to understand what they value. Some people maybe value that 1% extra that they think that they can kind of like cut you down to. Some people might value your experience and knowledge. Some might value your strategic acumen. Some might value the clarity that you provide by giving them some kind of a seller's book or a buyer's book or something that takes them through the whole process. Some might value the fact that they can just like have you handle the whole thing for them and it'll be simple. You don't know what those things are until you know. One way to start with that, of course, is the Med-C. What are their motivations? What are their expectations of an agent or a service provider? What are some disappointments that they've experienced in the past that they would definitely not like to repeat ever again? And what concerns do they have, if any, about this process? That's one way that you can look underneath the iceberg, as we've said before, look underneath and understand what's inside that person's mind, what the world looks like from their point of view, so that you have something to relate to. If you don't understand anything about your client, then you're just taking a shot in the dark. You know, there is nothing else that you have to attach to. Michael, can I ask you to come off mute for a minute? You said to go back to the first slide. Can you just tell me which one you're talking about?
The very original one, when your starting slide. There you go. Thank you, sir.
Yep. So all of these 20 slides will be, success principle 1, and then living success principle 1, and then success principle 2, living success principle 2. We'll go all the way through the 10 that way.
Right.
Yep. Okay. So let's go back to some of these things. 2, demonstrate that you know the other's interests or needs. This is an important tactic. And if you don't regularly do this, it's something that you may want to work into the way you interact with folks, is to state explicitly what you heard or what you understand about another person. If you're listening well, you should be able to prove to them that you understand what the world looks like from their point of view. And so by saying something like, okay, thanks for telling me a little bit about yourself. What I heard from you that's most important is that someone take control of this process so that you don't have to worry about it and you don't have to be bothered 6 times a week. Is that correct? Yes. There are very few things that are more valuable than to prove it to someone that you are listening and that you understand how things look from their point of view. 3rd, make every interaction a contribution. I can't tell you how many agents I've seen their newsletters where I wonder how much value there is for somebody in whatever's in there. It's very easy to sign up for a service that's going to populate your newsletters for you with various information. But, that's a very kind of scattershot idea, right? Like, let's put in an article about the economy or whatever it is. You don't know that a particular client sees value in that or not. And if they don't, then you're not creating greater contribution or connection. You're actually creating an experience of disconnection. Have you ever gotten a magazine from somebody or a brochure that you didn't care about? Every time you get that thing, you're pissed off. It's like, I don't want this thing. I've called them twice. Why do they keep sending me this thing? I told them not to send it to me anymore. I've been battling one company called Direct Line Cruises for like the last 3 years. They keep sending me these things. I don't want them. I hate Direct Line Cruises because they're not relating to me. I've called them on the phone and said, please don't ever send me anything again. They say, okay. And they send me another. For me, it's not a connecting experience. It's a disconnecting experience. And this is true for all of us. Whenever we miss the mark, it's a disconnecting experience. And so give careful thought to every contact that you make. You should always be aiming for either connection or contribution, right? Connection, if you haven't connected in a while or things have drifted apart or whatever, or maybe you're not sure their ideas have changed, you want to kind of connect to what their current reality is. And then based on that, contribution. Note important dates for your clients in your calendar. Most people do this with birthdays or maybe the anniversary of the closing of the house. Those are fine, but we can go so much further than that. And it really kind of goes with this, like the last statement here. Ask yourself, what's going on in so-and-so's life today? Do you ever ask yourself that question about a client you're not currently working with? I wonder what's happening for Susan today. I wonder what's a big deal in her life tomorrow. If you're asking yourself those questions for a large number of your clients and former clients, you should understand what's going on in their life. It's not just a birthday. It's not just a graduation, that their son, their 8th grade son or daughter might have. Those things are perfectly fine. But there's so many other happenings, like they had to go in for a procedure at the hospital. It's not a major one, but you know what? It's a big deal for them that day. Or maybe they're opening their new coffee shop or something because they got into a new business and they're opening the coffee shop. Or something like that that's big for them. If you can connect to them on their terms, that means you're there to acknowledge what that experience might be like for them and that you're thinking of them. So if you never have anything like this in your calendar, think about what you know about your clients, what's important to them in their life, and it could be anything of any importance, health issues, relationship issues, financial issues, kids graduating, whatever it is, and make sure that that's in your calendar. Did you ever have a client who just had an interview, like they want to get out of their job, and they have an interview, and they had a big interview, it was big to them? Did you call them up the next day or send them a text, say, how did the interview go? It's an extremely powerful connecting experience if somebody has something that's important to them and you checked in and said, how'd it go? And the final one here, which is the second to bottom one, keep up to date with previous clients. Obviously, this is one of the biggest failures that I see across the industry. People get so busy with the stuff of their everyday life that they fail to stay connected with previous clients. And I can't tell you, probably 80% of the agents tell me I could do a better job of connecting with my former clients. Maybe more than 80%. It's a huge, huge factor. And it's a shame too, because if you develop that great relationship during the course of the deal, and then it just disappears into nothing, right? If you don't contact them for a year, 2 years, 3 years, you lose the value of, let's say, the second sale a couple of years later, or that referral. And you've built up all that credit with them in the form of relating, right? Like they took to you, they really liked having you in their life. And not every agent wants to continue the relationship, or not every client wants to continue the relationship. I get that. And if they don't want that, perfectly fine. You can respect that. But for most clients who go through a big transformational experience like this with some emotion attached to it, they're very thankful for the wonderful service that you're providing. You've built up a tremendous amount of cred with them. And if you just let that kind of disappear into the ether, unfortunately, that's where it's going to be. You're going to be back to ground zero. So these are just some of the things that you can do. And so I want to we'll come off the slides here in just a minute. I want to ask you, which ones of these are ones that maybe you think you could do a little more of, or something that kind of jumps out at you. And I'll ask you, what's another thing that you specifically do to ensure that someone feels related to by you. But let's keep going here. What happens when you live principle one? Well, there's some things that are quite predictable here. One is, first, people are going to, be surprised how many questions you ask. Wow, you're asking me so many questions. Some might see it as a little invasive, but most won't, especially if you're following up the questions with confirming what you heard. Okay, I understand your motivation is XYZ. You've got these expectations for an agent. I'm so sorry you had this disappointing experience before, 2 years ago when you moved last time. We're going to guarantee that that's not going to happen this time. And I can understand your concern about XYZ. Right? Feeding that back to them in your own words proves to them that you are where they are. But eventually, once they get to know you better and they have this kind of common experience of being related to by you, some other things are going to happen. One is they're going to start asking for advice outside of the real estate transaction stuff. Do you ever have a client come to you, call you up and say something like, Wayne, do you know where I can get a plumbing part like this? I mean, I went to my Home Depot, I went to my local hardware store. They don't have it, but I need it. I know it's kind of old. Do you know any place I could go to get a freaking part like this? When they come to you with something like that, that is proof that they value your perspective outside of real estate, right? This is one of the most telltale signs that they feel related to by you. understood by you, and contributed to by you. Next, they'll tell you about what's happening for them without prompting. Yeah, someone said before, they'll call you up organically. Absolutely. If they call you up sometime, or they just tell you, hey, my son's graduating, or my mother's not in good health, or whatever, that's evidence that they feel this relationship strongly. If they never share stuff like that with you, chances are they may not be feeling that kind of an experience that you hope they might have. How about this one? They may invite you to events or activities. How many times do you get invited by one of your clients to something that they're involved in? Maybe it's a family fun day or some fundraiser or something like that. Does that ever happen when you're working with someone on a deal, or does it ever happen after the deal's over? If it does, that's really powerful evidence that they feel related to and contributed to by you. And finally, of course, the big one, which is referrals. You'll get referrals out of the blue from people because you've been in their mind, you've been front of mind for them, you've claimed that mind share for them. And of course, that's the greatest reward for doing this, other than enjoying the relationship itself, is when that relationship comes in. So all of these things are things that you can expect to happen when they're having that experience. And if these things aren't happening often enough, we can ask ourselves, how can we create a more connected and contributive experience for them from their point of view so that more of these things happen? Whoops. Hold on a minute. I was going to share one more slide on that. Okay. So how can you take action on this week? Well, pick one of those actions on the earlier slide. If one of those items, and I'll go back to it in just a minute, has some kind of resonance for you, or it's something you haven't thought about, or something you don't do much of, choose that one to focus on it. Focus on it for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, whatever amount of time you think will give you some kind of traction in creating this related to experience. And then at that point, think about whether you want to continue to focus on that or focus on a different tactic. Let me go back to them just so you can see. Right here. If you never do the Med C, promise you, you're missing out. It's one of the best and easiest ways to learn something about the client or potential client very early in the game. It has a lot of value because it touches on a lot of the emotional experience of the person. The motivations touches on joy. Disappointments touches on sadness. And concerns touches on fear or worry or concern, or anxiety or nervousness. These things are connecting experiences. If you can connect to someone when they're in kind of an emotional experience of any kind, that's a powerful connection. So think about any of these or think about something else, but you have to focus on the opportunity you have to create that related to experience. So let me ask everybody, just put into the chat, which one of those is one that you would like to focus on for the next 30, 60, or 90 days, or put another tactic in there that you think would help you if you focused on it to create this experience in others of being related to and contributed to by you. While you're doing that, I'll answer Corey's question. Corey asked, did you have a suggestion on Med C for past clients as you reach out? No, I don't have one for, Med C itself is not necessarily something that is appropriate for a reconnecting call. It's designed to be a get to know you call for the first time around, or a get to know you conversation. However, when you're reaching out to somebody who you haven't talked with in a while, there's a couple of things. I mean, Chirag was talking during the pandemic. That was a great time to reach out to people because you could say, hey, I haven't talked with you in a while. Just, was thinking about you and was wondering how you're doing. And that was kind of an easy opening because everybody's world was kind of tight, turned upside down. But when you're reconnecting with someone that you haven't connected in a while, you want to come from a place of authentic curiosity or authentic care, which is simply, hey, Susan, it's been a while since we've talked. I was thinking about you over the weekend. I'm hoping things are going well for you, and I wanted to check in, right? This is the connection piece, right? Connection first, then contribution. And so the connection call is just that. It's just making a contact again. And you can ask simple questions like, what's going on in your life these days? Or what's keeping you busy these days? Or if you have something to refer back to, which is great, you can say, hey, I remember last time we talked, you said you were going to start that nursing program. Did you ever end up doing that? Yeah, I just finished it 6 months ago. I'm a nurse now. Wow, that's fantastic. right? It's great to be able to refer back to something if you have something that you talked about at a previous time. Okay, see a few things here. Med C, keep up to date with previous clients. Med C, keep up to date, repeat back to clients what they said. Yeah, that's such an important one. To be able to feed back to somebody what you heard in your words demonstrates beyond a shadow of a doubt that you were listening, that you were there with them. And if you didn't get it 100% right, it's okay. You still got it 95% right, and they'll tell you which part was not quite right. If you say, well, you said you were a little angry when so-and-so did such and such, and so you don't want that to happen again. And they'll say, well, I wasn't exactly angry. I was just a little frustrated. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for that correction. Yeah, you were frustrated. But they'll know that you got the other 95% right. It's a powerful technique. Donna, I'd like to ask you, when you say keep up to date with previous clients, what does that look like for you?
Well, I have so many things I could say to these people, and I just, I get caught up in the day-to-day activities and I don't go back and do them. I'm just sitting here thinking while you're talking of so many people I could have or can reach out to,
Yep.
about all different things, because I do know all about the things in their life, because I always did ask so many questions, but I just don't pursue it,
Yep, got it. So, there's either you do it or you don't, right? I mean, there's no secret sauce here, folks, right? It's, what you focus on grows, and that's it. So you can dedicate every morning from 8 to 8:15 to making 1 or 2 phone calls to people, or you can do it kind of as an ad hoc way, but say to yourself, I'm going to contact 5 people a week or whatever. There's so many different ways to do it, but you have to choose something. You have to stick with it.
I'm like sitting here thinking, as soon as you're done, of these few people that I'm going to call, because I know what I want to ask them. I don't know why. I just, like you said, just do it like first thing in the morning, or get in the swing of doing it every day, a couple every day.
Yep, got it. Thank you, Donna. Wayne?
Yeah, so the stuff you've been teaching, I really take that to heart. And every Sunday I get together with a group of friends. We call ourselves family. And we're at the table and everyone's talking all over each other. They're just talking. And this one woman was sitting across the table from me, and I just asked her a simple question, So I said, oh, wow, I'm really interested in hearing more about that. And I let her talk. And you know what she said to me after that? She goes, Wayne, thank you for listening.
Yay!
And I just feel that people, it made me feel so good. And I just feel that people are so hungry to be heard. They just want to be heard. And that applies not only in our personal lives, but also when we go on these listing presentations. Because I don't know about you guys, in my previous brokerage, they just taught us to just vomit information on people and not ask questions. And to the point where they're getting bored and they're like, okay, it's time for you to go. But when I practiced the Med C, I found, wow, this stuff really works because people feel like they're being heard.
Yeah, well, thank you, Wayne. That's exactly what we're looking for. If you were with us in April, we had a couple of sessions where we were talking about listening. And one of my statements was that listening is one of the most powerful ways to influence people, to create the relationship experience that we're talking about. One of the most powerful ways to do that is to listen. And by demonstrating, feeding back what you heard that proves that you listened is a great technique. One of the other ones we talked about was called Tell Me More. Tell me more about X. What you're saying to that person at that moment is, I've got a million things that I could think about in my life, but I'd like to spend the next 3 minutes understanding more about what you think about XYZ. And my challenge to everybody was, if you don't have someone say to you, thank you for listening, or you're a good listener, if you don't hear those statements once a month, you're not listening well enough, period. We listen to dozens of people over every month. We have hundreds of conversations where listening is a big part of it. And if no one ever says those words to us, what they're saying is, I don't feel compelled to say this to you because I didn't have a strong enough experience to feel compelled to do that. On the other hand, when a person says, thank you for listening, what they're saying is, I could say anything out of my mouth right now to you, but what I really want to say, what I feel compelled to say to you is, I was so powerfully impacted by your listening that I have to tell you that right now. I feel compelled to do it. That's very powerful evidence that they're being related to. So we all have the opportunity to influence through what we say. We have the opportunity to influence through how we listen. All of these things are all about our opportunity to create a relationship where the person feels related to by you. So continue to focus on this. My suggestion is that you never lose this principle. I mean, all 10 principles are important, but none is more important than this. Build your life around falling in love with the dreams and the world of your client, understanding what the world looks like from their point of view, and meeting them there. Okay, everybody, we're at time. Thank you so much for your input today. Thanks for being here. Look forward to seeing you next week, where we'll be exploring success principle number 2. Have a great week, everybody.